Hello everyone, it's Jonathan here again from Nassau English School. I hope you're enjoying the nice weather that we have at the moment for most of the time. It's a nice day today at the moment, and that you're finding ways to get some exercise and go outside, as well as also finding time to keep improving your English. I've got two more tongue twisters for you today so that we can practice them and you can do a bit more practice with them at home. So here is the first one. It's quite a long one, so listen carefully. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would chuck, he would, as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Okay. Now, first of all, you're probably wondering, what is a woodchuck? And the answer is on the screen. Hopefully you can see at the bottom of the screen there is an animal. That is a woodchuck. Another name for a woodchuck is a groundhog. Some of you might know about groundhogs from the famous Groundhog Day in America, which was the subject of a famous movie with Bill Murray, where he lives the same day over and over and over again. It's a really good movie. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend watching it. But yeah, so it's kind of like a beaver. It's got very prominent teeth, usually brown. Okay, now the interesting thing about this tongue twister is you've got the woodchuck, but you've also got the verb chuck. Now the verb chuck is an informal way of saying to throw something. Okay, to throw something, to chuck, chuck the ball. Chuck can also be used, I believe, to talk about relationships. When you want to chuck your boyfriend or girlfriend, basically means you want to split up with them or to end the relationship. You can chuck them. Oh, I chucked him last week, or I chucked her last week, etc. Okay, but the most common use of the word chuck is another way of saying to throw, and it's quite informal. If we think of throw as the more formal way of saying that action, then chuck is a more informal way of saying that. Okay, and obviously we're talking about wood, like this object here is made out of wood that you get from trees. So you've got those words throughout. Now the first thing I want to highlight is obviously wood, the material wood, like I've just showed you, but then we also have the modal verb would. And you'll notice that even though the modal verb would ends in LD, it sounds exactly the same as the noun would. Okay, there is no difference in their pronunciation here in terms of the main word. You have wood, the material, the noun, and you have would, the modal verb. They sound the same in terms of their basic pronunciation. Okay, so the L is silent. Okay, and that's the same for other modal verbs like could, which you can also see in this, and should. Now, another sound that we've got here is the ch sound, which I think we've done before in another one. So we've got ch. Remember, that comes from inside the mouth, and this kind of pressure that builds up. It's a short sound, so it's ch, ch, like teach. And here we've got two words that have the ch sound in. We've got much, ch. So ch is at the end of that word. And then we've also got the verb and also the noun chuck, where it's at the beginning. Ch, ch. Okay, so you should feel a real pressure build up and release when you say that word. Ch, ch. Remember, it's different from sh. That's a longer sound. Shh, shh. That's sh. Here we've got ch, which is ch, short and more and stronger. Now, another thing I want to highlight here is the k sound. So we've got the chuck, both the verb and the noun, and we've got ck that I've highlighted in green on the screen for you. That comes from the back of the throat. K, k, k. It's the k sound, like you get if you're saying car or any word that starts with a K. Finally, you'll notice on your screen I've underlined in the second half of the tongue twister, I've got he would chuck, and then I've got further down as a woodchuck. I wanted to underline this because obviously those sounds are repeated all the way through, wood and chuck, whether it's would the noun or would the modal verb. But there is a small difference in pronunciation, and it's to do with emphasis. So if we look at the first one that I've underlined, he would chuck. If I'm saying that at a normal fast speed, I say he would chuck. He would chuck. Okay, so the would, the modal verb would, has a weak sound. I don't say would chuck, I say would chuck. Would chuck. Okay, so it's not would, it's like would. It's a very fast sound. He would chuck. He would chuck. Okay, and that's generally the same in a positive sentence with a modal verb. That is usually the case where, you know, if it's like can or could, it's a weak sound if it's a positive modal verb. If we go to the other part that I've underlined, this is the noun woodchuck, the animal that you can see on the screen. That's obviously one word instead of two. And this time, woodchuck, I am putting the emphasis on the wood, so on the first syllable. There are two syllables. I'm emphasizing the first one, okay? Woodchuck, woodchuck. He would chuck as a woodchuck. Okay, so just remember to highlight those differences in your pronunciation. So let's give it another go. It's quite long, so listen to the rhythm of the way I say it, and then you can practice it yourselves at home. Okay, here we go. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would chuck, he would, as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Okay, that was pretty good. Let's try that again. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would chuck, he would, as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Okay, so hopefully you can have some fun practicing that one at home. Now I'm going to move on to a much shorter one, but in many ways this is probably more difficult because of the sounds that are involved. Okay, right, I've got to make sure I get this one right as well. So I'm going to do it slowly to start off with. He threw three free throws. So oddly enough, we're still talking about throwing things. He threw three free throws. Right. As you can imagine, you're probably looking with horror at this tongue twister because, yes, it's initially I didn't want to do this one, but I figured that I'd have a go. It's a bit of fun. So to start off with, let's just focus on the sounds that are the same. So we've got THR making a thr sound. So if you look carefully at my mouth here, I'll go through it slowly for each of the words. So we have got through. So you have the TH, the hard TH sound with th. So that involves my tongue coming through my teeth. But then I need to make an R, a R sound afterwards. And then I need the sound on the end. So through, three, throws. Okay, so you've got the past simple verb threw. He threw. Then you've got the number three, and then you've got throw again, but this time it's actually a noun. You can use throw as a verb and a noun. So here it's a noun with obviously it's a plural form with the S, the Z at the end, throws. Okay, so through, three, throws. Okay, so make sure you get that TH sound with the R and followed by the appropriate vowel sound. Then we've got this sound. Now I think lots of people, to be honest, even English people probably when they're speaking quickly can get very mixed up with this. This is different, even though it sounds very similar. But if you look carefully at the mouth shape that I'm making, free. I am making a f sound, and that comes from the lip, okay? The THR comes from inside the mouth, the tongue, through the teeth. This comes from the lip, okay? Free. Okay, free obviously meaning it doesn't cost any money in this case. Or maybe somebody who was in prison and is let out of prison, they are free. Okay, so really get the difference between those two sounds. You've got fr, and then you've got fr. Okay, like France and French have the same sound at the beginning, the FR. Finally, I just wanted to go through the different vowel sounds that we've got here. So we have got through, so that ends with an oo sound, like the number 2, for example. Then we've got three and free, ending in E. So with that one, my mouth should go wide, E, like tea, to have a cup of tea. It's the same sound, same ending. And then in throw, at the end, I've got basically an O sound, like no, or go, or any of those other words. Okay. Also at the beginning, I didn't highlight this on the screen, but we've also got he, E. There's also an E sound there as well. Okay, so those are the vowel sounds that we've got. So let's practice this one again. Let's do it slowly to start off with, and then I'll try and speed it up. But even though it's short, but it is quite difficult because that thr and fr is quite difficult to do even slowly, but trying to do it quickly will be a nightmare. So let's have a go. He threw 3 free throws. He threw 3 free throws. Okay. If it helps, you can do the actions to go with it, to help you to remember the sounds. Right, let's try and speed it up. This will probably go horribly wrong, but let's have a go anyway. Right. He threw 3 free throws. He threw 3 free throws. That was all right, actually. He threw 3 free throws. That one was a bit... That was close, that one. Okay, so really practice that one. Also, I know it's short, but it's quite difficult. I know people often get confused between the thr and the fr sound because they do sound very, very similar. Written down, you can see the difference, but if you're listening to someone talking, especially for you guys as you're from different countries, then you'll probably find it difficult listening to English speakers. You'd probably find that quite difficult. Okay, so he threw 3 free throws. So you can look carefully at my mouth shape. Remember thr, the THR, and from the lip. Free for FR, for any words that have FR in them. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and hope that you find it useful to practice those tongue twisters at home. Don't forget you can watch back over the other videos that I've done on the social media pages on Facebook and on Instagram. Make sure you follow those pages regularly because there's videos being uploaded all the time, and there's quizzes on the Instagram story that you can do as well to do a bit of grammar practice to keep practicing. And remember that you can apply to do online lessons with the school. There are details about that on the Facebook and Instagram pages for the school. And keep an eye out for videos and activities. Keep practicing your English as much as possible, because I know that at the moment most of us are still stuck indoors, but it's a great opportunity for you to do some extra practice and to keep your hand in as much as possible and develop your language skills. So everyone take care, and hopefully I will see you very soon. Goodbye.